The other thing I want to highlight before I take my first break, we're going to jump to Italy and what happened in the Coppa Italia game between Inter Milan and Juventus. Pretty balanced game. Eventually, Juan Cuadrado put Juventus up in the 83rd minute. It looks like Juve is going to get, the win at home, set themselves up nicely. And then 5 minutes into stoppage time, Romelu Lukaku equalizes from the penalty spot. The narrative of the game kind of flips, and all of a sudden it's Inter that come out with a draw. The bigger headline coming out of this game, though, was the racial abuse that was directed toward Romelu Lukaku, the second yellow he got for taunting Juventus fans after scoring the goal. You had the two other red cards. It was a mess at the end. I don't have too much other on the game itself other than to say this was a big deal for Inter Milan to get this equalizer. Why? Because it would have been a fourth straight loss to an Italian opposition. This has been kind of coming off the wheels here. And if you follow all of that up with failing to score again, putting yourself in a hole in the Coppa Italia when you're not going to win the league, this is another chance for a trophy. It would have been really demoralizing. But instead, you come out the happier of the two teams here. And no, you didn't win, but you avoided a defeat, and it's a draw that, in terms of kind of moral victories, you absolutely won. So a really nice confidence boost to kind of stop the bleeding for Inter. On the fan behavior part of this, there isn't too much to say because it's the same story every single time. Obviously, it's appalling. Obviously, something needs to be done. This isn't any different than all of the other times this has happened. So I'm just going to kind of break it down to this pretty quickly. It's clear that the measures that are being taken currently are not working because we get these pretty consistently. And it's not just Italy, but it's certainly, this is by no means the only example of this happening recently in Italy. Romelu Lukaku, by himself, has highlighted multiple. So clearly we got a systemic issue here, right? This is not an aberration, both in Italy and just generally across the sport. That's not news to anybody, but it's worth acknowledging once again. This is one of those things you can't just become immune to it and just be sad and say, I wish we could do better. We got to keep highlighting it until something is actually done. The second part. Every time this happens, whether it's the team, whether it's the league, whoever puts out the statements saying that they have no tolerance for racial abuse, that everybody is equal in the sport, that they support the player, whatever, all of those kind of things. It's important to put that statement out. It's a nice sentiment to share. How about you do more than say it, though? Show me you have no tolerance for this kind of behavior and that racial abuse has no place in the game. Show me by doing something different. Because again, what is happening right now is not working. The thing that keeps coming to mind is stadium bans, just because I don't really know what other options there are. But we haven't really gone all in on the stadium ban thing. So how about we try that? Do something different. Because it's easy to put the statement out and to say, oh, that's terrible and that's not okay and we have no tolerance for that. It's a lot harder to actually do the work and to kind of take responsibility and say, we as a club, we as a league, we as a soccer community are not going to stand for this. And we collectively, not just the police or the club, are going to hold people accountable by saying if there are fans who are going to treat players that way, there will not be fans in the stands. And is it not fair to, of course, it's not everybody, and it's really disappointing that that would ruin that opportunity for people who are doing nothing wrong. But hopefully that will spur those people onto action to try and cut it out so that we don't have this problem and everybody can enjoy the game. You can say the same things over and over about how awful it is and all that stuff. At some point, you got to do something more than say that it's not okay. Saying it's not okay is important. Show me how strongly you are against this by figuring out something other than what we've been doing, because we're going to end up right back here, whether it's Lukaku or somebody else, way sooner than we should if we're just continuing down the same path.